Noah, slow down, I said while reaching for his glass of water. You're eating too fast again. I'm hungry, Noah mumbled with a grin. Lena forced a small smile from across the table. Your father says that every night. For 1 second, everything felt normal. The chicken was still warm. The television played softly in the living room. Rain tapped against the windows. Then Noah dropped his fork. I frowned. Buddy. His chest jerked hard. The color drained from his face. Dad, he whispered. My chair crashed backward as I jumped up. Noah slid from his seat and hit the floor. No. His body twitched violently. Lena covered her mouth. No. No. Call the ambulance. I shouted. She didn't move. I dropped beside Noah and pressed my shaking hand against his chest. His heartbeat felt wrong. Weak. Uneven. Lena. I screamed. Call them now. Her phone was already in her hand, but she just stood there staring at Noah like she was frozen in ice. The same look. The same terrified eyes from 7 years ago. Please, she whispered. Please not again. Rage exploded inside me. I grabbed the phone from her hand and dialed emergency services myself. My son can't breathe, I said desperately. He has a heart condition. Please hurry. Noah's fingers wrapped weakly around my sleeve. Dad, I'm here, I told him. Stay with me. Look at me, okay? His eyes rolled back. I carried him toward the front door while Lena followed behind me, crying so hard she could barely walk. The rain hit my face the second I stepped outside. I shoved Noah into the back seat and climbed in beside him. Drive, I yelled. Lena gripped the steering wheel with trembling hands. I can't. Then get out. She stumbled from the car, sobbing. I pushed her aside, jumped into the driver's seat, and sped toward the hospital. Dad, Noah whispered again. You're not dying tonight, I said. Do you hear me? You're not leaving me. By the time we reached the emergency entrance, doctors rushed Noah away on a stretcher. A nurse stopped me near the doors. Sir, you need to stay back. That's my son. We're doing everything we can. Lena finally reached the hospital 10 minutes later. Her hair was soaked from the rain. Ethan, I turned on her instantly. What is wrong with you? She froze. You just stood there again. I shouted. Your son was dying. People stared at us, but I didn't care. I was scared, she whispered. Scared? I laughed bitterly. I was scared too, Lena, but I moved. Tears streamed down her face. You don't understand why I panic. Then explain it to me. She looked away. I can't. My chest tightened painfully. Every time Noah collapses, you fall apart. What? She shook her head slowly. I just can't. I wanted to scream at her again, but the ICU doors opened. A doctor stepped outside and removed his mask. We stabilized your son for now. For now. I repeated. He's alive, the doctor said carefully. But the next 24 hours are critical. Lena broke down beside me, crying in her hands. Hours passed after that. Machines beeped endlessly behind the ICU walls while I sat alone in the hallway with cold coffee between my hands. Around 3 in the morning, exhaustion finally crushed me. My eyes closed for only a second. Then I heard a voice. Cold. Mechanical. Inside my head. Truth system activated. I jerked awake. My heart pounded violently as I looked around the empty hallway. Nobody was there. I rubbed my face slowly. I'm losing my mind. The voice returned instantly. Warning, your wife is hiding critical information about your child. My blood turned cold. I remembered every hospital bill, every sleepless night, every promise Lena made about protecting Noah. None of it made sense anymore. The fear inside me slowly changed into suspicion, and that terrified me more than voices through walls. I slowly lifted my head toward the ICU window. Lena stood beside Noah's bed, crying silently while holding his hand. For the first time in our marriage, I stared at my wife and wondered if I had ever truly known her. I woke up with my neck burning from the hospital chair. For a second, I forgot where I was. Then I saw the ICU doors. Noah. My chest tightened instantly. I rubbed my eyes and whispered, that voice wasn't real. A nurse approached me with a clipboard. Good morning, Mr. Carter. Your son is stable right now. Relief nearly knocked me over. Then bright red words flashed inside my head. Partial lie detected. I froze. What? The nurse blinked. Sir, the red words vanished. I muttered. The nurse looked uncomfortable. The doctor will explain more soon. 10 minutes later, a tired doctor entered the hallway. There's swelling around Noah's heart, he said quietly. His condition is worsening faster than expected. I stared at him, but the nurse said he was stable. She meant he survived the night. The mechanical voice returned immediately. Emotional suppression detected. Subject avoided full truth to reduce panic. Fear crawled through my body. I backed against the wall. This can't be happening. Around noon, my best friend Ben arrived carrying coffee. You look terrible, he said. I feel terrible. He handed me a cup. How's Noah? They don't know yet. Ben sighed heavily. Lena hasn't left Noah's side in years. She loves that kid more than herself. The voice spoke again. Ben Holloway unknowingly hides information. I almost dropped the coffee. Ben frowned. You okay? Yeah, I lied quickly. Now I couldn't stop studying people's faces. Every word sounded dangerous. Every pause felt suspicious. Ben sat beside me. You and Lena need to stop fighting. You saw her last night. She was scared. She froze again. Ben looked away for a second. Lena's been carrying something for a long time. My stomach twisted. What does that mean? I don't know exactly, he admitted. I just mean, she's changed over the years. The voice stayed silent this time, which somehow scared me more. Later that evening, I walked toward the vending machines when I heard Lena whispering around the corner. He can never find out the truth about Noah. I stopped breathing. A man's voice answered through her phone, but I couldn't hear the words clearly. Lena sounded desperate. Adrian, please. If Ethan learns what really happened, everything falls apart. My hand shook violently. Adrian? Who the hell was Adrian? I stepped around the corner suddenly. Who are you talking to? Lena nearly dropped her phone. Nobody. The system answered instantly. Direct lie detected. I felt sick. Nobody. I repeated slowly. You just said his name. Her face turned pale. He's a doctor. What doctor? He helped Noah years ago. Then why are you hiding phone calls with him? I'm not hiding anything. Lie detected. The words slammed through my skull again. Ikabtiao. Stop lying to me. People turned toward us from the hallway. Lena pulled free. You're hurting me. Who is Adrian? He's just consulting on Noah's case. Then why did you say I could never know the truth? Tears filled her eyes instantly. Because you're already falling apart. I stepped back slowly. For years, I ignored every strange thing between us. The missed anniversaries. The late-night phone calls. The way Lena sometimes stared at Noah like she was afraid of him dying every second. Even our marriage felt colder after Noah's first surgery. How long have you been talking to him? I asked quietly. A while. Months. She hesitated. Years. Ethan. I laughed bitterly. Wow. It's not what you think. Then tell me what to think. She covered her face and started crying again. I couldn't take it anymore. That night, around midnight, Lena suddenly grabbed her coat and hurried toward the elevator. I followed her quietly outside the hospital. Rain covered the streets while I stayed half a block behind her taxi. 20 minutes later, she stopped in front of a massive luxury apartment building downtown. My heartbeat pounded harder as I watched her step through the glass entrance without hesitation. Then the elevator doors closed behind my wife, and I realized she had done this before. I stood across the street in the freezing rain, staring at the penthouse windows, wondering what else she had hidden from me. I stayed across the street for nearly 2 hours, soaked by cold rain and poisoned by my own thoughts. Every passing minute made my imagination worse. Maybe Lena had been cheating for years. Maybe Noah was not even my son. Maybe the voice inside my head was right about everything. I stared up at the glowing penthouse windows. Who are you, Adrian? The mechanical voice suddenly returned. Do not act emotionally. Observe first. I clenched my fists. Easy for you to say. Around 1 a.m, a black car stopped outside the building. A tall man stepped out wearing a dark coat. I recognized him immediately. Dr. Adrian Vale, Noah's surgeon. My stomach dropped. Adrian entered the building without hesitation, and rage exploded through me so hard I almost ran after him. Instead, I crossed the street quietly and slipped inside before the security doors fully closed. The elevator required a key card, but somebody exiting held it open long enough for me to enter the lobby staircase. By the time I reached the top floor, my lungs burned. Voices echoed faintly through the hallway. Lena was crying. I didn't know what else to do, she whispered. Adrian sounded exhausted. His condition is becoming unstable again. I know. You can't keep hiding this forever. I was trying to protect him. I froze beside the penthouse door. Protect me from what? Adrian sighed heavily. The truth cannot stay buried forever, Lena. My pulse pounded violently. The truth. Again. I nearly kicked the door open right there. Then the system spoke. Adrian Vale feels guilt, not romantic attachment. I stopped cold. What? The voice disappeared instantly. Inside the apartment, Lena cried harder. If Ethan finds out, she whispered, he'll hate me forever. Adrian answered softly. This stopped being about hate years ago. What was I supposed to do? She asked desperately. Noah was dying. You should have told your husband the truth. I couldn't. Because you were scared? Because I knew Ethan would destroy himself, blaming me. I pressed against the wall, trying to breathe quietly. Nothing made sense anymore. If this wasn't an affair, then what were they hiding? Adrian spoke again. Victor is getting nervous. That name caught my attention immediately. Hospital Director Victor Hale? Lena asked quietly. Yes. My mind raced. Victor Hale ran St. Mercy Hospital. Why were they talking about him like that? He thinks Ethan suspects something, Adrian continued. He doesn't, Lena whispered quickly. Not yet. I backed away from the door before they could hear me breathing. My hand shook uncontrollably. Every answer created 5 more questions. A few minutes later, the penthouse door opened suddenly. I hid behind the staircase corner. Lena stepped into the hallway, wiping tears from her face. Before the elevator doors closed, I heard her whisper one final sentence. Ethan would never survive knowing what really happened that night. The door shut. I stood frozen for several seconds. That night. What night? Noah's first surgery? The first heart attack? I couldn't stop hearing her words. Never survive knowing. By the time I returned to the hospital near dawn, exhaustion felt like poison inside my body. The ICU hallway smelled like coffee and disinfectant. I sat outside Noah's room, staring at the floor until somebody approached me. You Ethan Carter? I looked up. A man around my age stood there wearing a plain jacket instead of a police uniform. Who's asking? Detective Ryan Brooks. My chest tightened instantly. Why is a detective here? Relax, he said calmly. I'm not investigating you. Then what do you want? He glanced toward the ICU. Actually, I'm investigating St. Mercy Hospital. The system spoke softly. Subject is truthful. Ryan sat beside me. There's been suspicious financial activity connected to Hospital Director Victor Hale. That name again. I tried keeping my face neutral. Financial activity, large payments, missing records, offshore accounts. What does that have to do with my son? Ryan studied me carefully. Maybe nothing, but Dr. Adrian Vale's name appeared several times during our investigation. Cold fear spread through my chest. Adrian is Noah's surgeon, I said slowly. Ryan nodded once. Yeah, that's why I wanted to talk to you. The system suddenly flashed red words inside my mind. Multiple hidden connections detected. I looked through the ICU window toward Noah's unconscious body. Then I remembered Lena crying inside the penthouse. Victor Hale, Adrian Vale, the truth about that night. For the first time, I realized my family might be trapped inside something far darker than betrayal. I couldn't sleep after speaking with Detective Brooks. Every memory from 7 years ago kept replaying inside my head like broken film. Noah's first heart attack, Lena screaming, doctors running through bright hallways, and then silence. I suddenly remembered something that made my stomach twist. Lena disappeared for nearly 3 hours during Noah's emergency surgery. At the time, I had been too terrified to question it. Now everything felt different. The system spoke quietly. Memory inconsistency detected. I rubbed my face hard. I know. The next morning, while Lena sat beside Noah's ICU bed, I slipped downstairs toward the hospital records department. An older clerk looked up from her desk. Can I help you? I need copies of my son's medical files from 7 years ago. That requires authorization. I'm his father. She hesitated. Wait here. 20 minutes later, I sat alone in a small archive room, flipping through old documents. At first, nothing looked strange. Heart scans, medication lists, surgery reports. Then I noticed several pages marked confidential. The system flashed immediately. Hidden irregularities detected. My hands trembled as I continued reading. Experimental Cardiac Recovery Program. Patient, Noah Carter. Authorization signature, Lena Carter. I froze completely. What the hell is this? I searched frantically through the paperwork. There was no signature for me anywhere. No consent. No approval. Nothing. Just Lena's name. A cold wave of betrayal crashed through my chest. I remembered sitting outside Noah's operating room 7 years earlier. A nurse handed me papers during the chaos. "Just sign these quickly," she had said. I signed without reading because I trusted them. Because I trusted my wife. "God," I whispered. Another document mentioned Adrian Vale directly. Lead surgical supervisor. I slammed the folder shut. My entire body burned with anger as I stormed back upstairs. Lena looked exhausted beside Noah's bed. The second she saw my face, fear filled her eyes. "What happened?" I threw the folder onto the table beside her. "What is this?" Her face instantly turned white. "Ethan, you signed Noah into an experimental program without telling me?" She stared silently at the papers. "Answer me." Tears filled her eyes immediately. "Please lower your voice." "No," I shouted. "Our son almost died because of this." A nurse glanced through the door nervously before leaving again. Lena covered her face. "I didn't have a choice." "You absolutely had a choice. He was dying, so you decided alone?" "I was trying to save him." "You lied to me for 7 years." Her breathing became shaky. I was scared. I laughed bitterly. That excuse again. She wiped tears from her cheeks. "Doctors told me Noah wouldn't survive without surgery." "What surgery?" "The experimental procedure Adrian developed." I stared at her silently. "He said Noah had a rare heart condition," she whispered. "He said normal treatments wouldn't work." "And you believed him?" "He showed me scans. Test results. Ethan, Noah was dying." I felt sick hearing it. Lena looked down at the floor. "Victor Hale approved the operation personally." That name again. "What exactly did they do to Noah?" Her voice cracked. "They implanted experimental tissue during surgery." I stepped backward slowly. Noah was only 7 months old. "I know. You let them experiment on a baby?" Her expression broke completely. "What was I supposed to do? Watch him die?" I want to scream at her. Part of me already was. "You should have told me," I said quietly. "I wanted to, but you didn't. They warned me you'd refuse the surgery. Maybe because it was illegal." Lena sobbed harder. "Adrian promised Noah would recover, but he didn't." Silence filled the room. Finally, she whispered the words I already feared. "The surgery caused permanent damage." My knees almost gave out. All those years, all those hospital visits, all those pills and collapsing episodes. Not fate, not illness alone. Somebody caused this. "You kept this from me for 7 years, I whispered. "I was terrified you'd blame me forever." I looked directly into her tear-filled eyes. Deep inside, I already did. Noah shifted weakly in his hospital bed, forcing both of us silent instantly. Lena rushed to hold his hand. I stayed frozen near the wall. The system suddenly returned. Its voice sounded colder than ever before. "The surgery was never intended to save your son." The words crushed the last piece of trust still alive inside me. I couldn't look at Lena after what she told me. My mind kept replaying the same words. Experimental program. Permanent damage. Victor Hale approved it. I walked out of Noah's room before I said something I could never take back. In the hallway, Detective Brooks was waiting. "You look worse than yesterday," he said. "I feel worse." He studied me. "You found something?" I didn't answer at first. Then I said, "My son was part of an experimental program." His expression changed instantly. "Say that again." I saw the files. He lowered his voice. "Ethan, if that's true, this goes way deeper than a single case." I rubbed my face hard. "I don't care how deep it goes. I just want the truth." Brooks nodded slowly. "Then let me help you find it." That night, I sat with him in a small office room near record storage. He slid a folder toward me. These are missing child files linked to Victor Hale's hospital funding. I opened it. My stomach dropped immediately. Dozens of redacted names. Blackened records. Blank death certificates. What is this? I whispered. Brooks answered quietly. Kids who were treated under unauthorized procedures. I flipped through page after page. They all just disappeared. Some died, he said. Some were transferred. Some were never recorded properly at all. My hand started shaking. And nobody noticed? He gave a bitter laugh. Hospitals are good at hiding things. I leaned back in the chair. Noah could have been one of them. Brooks didn't deny it. That silence hurt more than words. The system spoke inside my head. Pattern confirmation increasing. I whispered, I don't want to hear you right now. But it didn't stop. Truth probability rising above 80%. I closed the folder quickly. The next day, I received a message on an unknown number. I need to meet you. Alone. AV. My heart stopped. Adrian Vale. I met him at an empty parking structure behind the hospital that night. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept in days. You shouldn't have come, he said immediately. I don't care, I replied. Start talking. He rubbed his forehead. I tried to quit the program. When? Years ago. Then why is Noah still suffering? His jaw tightened. Because Victor wouldn't let it end. I stepped closer. Explain. Adrian looked away. The program wasn't medical treatment. It was testing. My chest went cold. Testing what? Cardiac regeneration methods on children with rare conditions. I felt like I couldn't breathe. You used children? I didn't want this, he said quickly. I tried to stop it. Then why didn't you report it? He gave a hollow laugh. Report Victor Hale? He owns half the medical board. I clenched my fists. And Lena? His expression softened slightly. She begged me to save Noah no matter what. My throat tightened. She came to me crying. He continued. She said she'd do anything. Anything, I repeated. Yes. I looked away, trying to control my anger. Victor used desperate parents, Adrian added. He convinced them their children were already dying. And Noah, he was one of the first stable cases. My stomach twisted, meaning they didn't expect him to survive the procedure. Silence fell between us. I whispered, so my son was an experiment. Adrian didn't answer, but the system did. Subject Adrian Vale, truth confirmed. I felt sick. Back at the hospital, Lena was sitting alone in the hallway. She looked smaller than before, broken. When she saw me, she stood immediately. I was going to tell you, she said quickly. When? I snapped. Every time I tried, Noah got worse. So you kept lying instead? Tears filled her eyes. I thought I was protecting you. You were protecting yourself. She shook her head. No, I was protecting him. I pointed toward Noah's room. He's still suffering. She broke down instantly. I know, she whispered. I know. Her voice cracked completely. I almost told you so many times. Then why didn't you? Because I thought you'd take him away from me. I stared at her, and I couldn't lose both of you. I turned away before I said something I couldn't undo. Later that night, I sat beside Noah's bed. Machines beeped softly around him. He opened his eyes weakly. Dad, he whispered. I leaned closer. I'm here, buddy. His voice was small. Why does Mom cry every night? I froze. He blinked slowly. Is she sad because of me? My throat tightened painfully. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. No answer felt safe. No answer felt true. So I just held his hand and stayed silent. I sat outside Noah's room staring at the floor, trying not to look at Lena. Every time I did, my thoughts split in two. One part of me said she lied for years. The other part whispered she was terrified. Lena finally spoke first. Ethan, please talk to me. I didn't look up. What is there to say? I never wanted this. That doesn't change anything. Her voice broke. I was forced into it. I laughed bitterly. Everyone keeps saying that. She stepped closer. You think I chose to hurt Noah? I think you chose silence. That hit her hard. I was threatened, she whispered. That made me look up. By who? Victor. My chest tightened. Explain. She sat down slowly beside me. After Noah's first surgery, Victor called me into his office. And he said if I ever exposed the program, I could be charged with child endangerment. I frowned. That's insane. He had documents ready, she said quickly. Fake reports. Everything would have made me look like I agreed to harm Noah on purpose. I felt anger rising again. So you stayed quiet. I stayed alive, she snapped back, then immediately softened. For Noah. Silence fell between us. Lena wiped her face. He told me the surgery was the only chance Noah had. And you believed him? I had no reason not to. I stood up. You had me. Her voice cracked. And I was afraid you'd stop everything. That stopped me. She continued, because I thought Noah would die before you could decide. I turned away again. Nothing about this felt simple anymore. Later, I walked down the hallway and found Claire Hudson sitting near the waiting area. You look like you haven't slept in days, she said. I haven't. She gestured for me to sit. Talk to me. I don't know who my wife is anymore. Claire nodded slowly. Sometimes people survive things by becoming someone else. That doesn't excuse lying. No, she agreed. But explains fear. I rubbed my face. Everyone keeps defending her. I'm not defending her, Claire said calmly. I'm trying to keep you from destroying yourself. I looked at her. What if I already am? She paused. Then stop feeding hatred. I shook my head. You don't understand what she did. I understand enough to see you're breaking too. Her words stayed with me longer than I wanted. That night, Lena came back into Noah's room with trembling hands. He's not responding well, she whispered. I rushed forward. What happened? His heart rate dropped again. Doctors rushed in immediately. The room filled with alarms. No, I shouted. A nurse pushed me back. Sir, we need space. I stood helplessly as machines screamed around him. Lena collapsed into a chair, crying. Not again. Please, not again. The system spoke inside my head. Critical failure detected. My body went cold. Hours later, Noah was rushed into emergency surgery. I stood outside the operating room with Lena shaking beside me. Then Adrian arrived. He looked at both of us and lowered his voice. We need to talk. I stepped away from Lena and followed him into a side corridor. What is it? I demanded. His face was pale. Noah's condition is reaching irreversible stages. I swallowed hard. Then fix it. I might not be able to, he admitted. My fists clenched. You created this. I tried to stop it, he said quickly. But Victor pushed the program further than I could control. Get to the point. Adrian hesitated. There's a chance Noah has only weeks left. My world tilted. But there's something worse. I stared at him. What worse? He lowered his voice. If the truth about the experiments doesn't come out, he will die without anyone ever knowing why. I felt my breath stop. Behind me, I could hear Lena crying in the hallway. And for the first time, I realized saving Noah might not be about medicine at all. I stood outside the operating room doors, listening to Noah's faint heart monitor beeps, and I knew something inside me had finally broken. Brooks, I said, pulling the detective aside, I'm done waiting. He looked at me sharply. What are you saying? I'm saying we expose Victor Hale. Tonight. He lowered his voice. That's dangerous. You sure? I'm already losing my son. What more can I lose? Behind us, Lena stepped forward immediately. Ethan, no. I turned to her. No. You don't understand what Victor will do, she whispered. He'll destroy us. I don't care anymore. Her eyes filled with panic. Please, stay quiet. Let Adrian handle it. I laughed bitterly. Adrian already told me Noah has weeks left. Silence didn't save him. Brooke stepped in. We already have an opportunity. Charity event tonight. Victor will be there with investors and media. Lena shook her head fast. That's exactly why it's dangerous. It's perfect, I said. She grabbed my arm. He will retaliate. I pulled away. Let him. That night, I stood inside the hospital's grand hall, surrounded by suits, cameras, and fake smiles. Victor Hale was at the front, shaking hands like nothing in the world was wrong. Brooks leaned close. Once you start, there's no going back. I'm already past that point. Lena stood behind me, shaking. Ethan, please don't do this. I didn't answer her. The stage lights dimmed. Victor began his speech. Tonight we celebrate innovation in pediatric medicine. I walked forward before I could stop myself. The crowd turned. Victor Hale, I shouted. The room went silent. Victor frowned. Sir, please take your seat. No, I said. You used children. You experimented on them. Murmurs exploded instantly. Security started moving toward me. Brooks stepped in quickly. Let him speak. Victor forced a smile. This man is grieving. He's confused. I pointed at him. My son is dying because of your experiments. Gasps filled the room. Lena covered her mouth behind me. Victor raised his hands. We treat thousands of children successfully. The system suddenly spoke in my head. Accessing hidden presentation data. I froze. On the projector behind Victor, files started appearing by themselves. Confidential labels. Medical trial records. Names. Real names. Children's names. The crowd erupted in confusion. What is that? Someone shouted. Brooks whispered. Ethan, how did you? I didn't, I said. Adrian suddenly rushed onto the stage. What are you doing? Victor snapped. Adrian grabbed the microphone. His hands were shaking. This is real. Victor turned furious. Dr. Vale, step down. No, Adrian said loudly. These are illegal trials. The entire room went dead silent. He continued. Children were used in experimental cardiac procedures without consent. People began screaming. A woman in the crowd stood up suddenly. That's my daughter's file. Another man shouted. That's my son's name. Chaos exploded instantly. Victor pointed at Adrian. He's lying. He approved all of it. Adrian shook his head. I tried to stop it. Victor turned toward Lena. She knows. She signed everything. Lena froze. All eyes turned to her. She whispered, I didn't. The system interrupted my thoughts again. Contradiction detected in Victor Hale's statement. I stepped forward. You said she approved it. Show proof. Victor hesitated. Another flash appeared on the screen behind him. Signature logs. Timestamp mismatches. Unauthorized overrides. The crowd started shouting louder. Brooks moved quickly toward Victor. Sir, you need to come with me. Victor backed away. This is sabotage. No, I said. This is truth. He turned suddenly and ran toward the exit doors. Security chased him instantly. But Brooks reached him first and tackled him to the ground. Flashing cameras surrounded them. Reporters shouted everywhere. Victor Hale, are you arresting him? Is this about child experiments? Who else is involved? Victor struggled, yelling, They're framing me. But it was too late. Brooks cuffed him as cameras recorded everything. I stood in the middle of the chaos, breathing heavily. Lena slowly walked up beside me. Her voice shook. What have we done? I watched Victor being dragged away. And for the first time, I realized exposing the truth didn't feel like victory. It felt like the beginning of something even worse. The day after Victor's arrest, the hospital felt emptier and louder at the same time. Machines still beeped. Doctors still walked fast. But everything inside me felt broken in a different way. Brooks called me outside the ICU. Media is everywhere, he said. They're tearing Victor apart. I stared at the floor. And Lena? He hesitated. She's trending online. I frowned. What does that mean? He exhaled. People are calling her a monster. I closed my eyes. She didn't start this. I know, he said softly. But the internet doesn't care. Later, I checked my phone. Thousands of comments. Child abuser. Liar mother. Kill her too. My hand shook. This is insane. I walked back in the hallway and saw Lena sitting alone near the wall. She didn't look up. I said quietly, stop reading it. She whispered, I can't. He sat beside her. None of it is real. She laughed once broken. It feels real. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she said, Noah got worse. My head snapped up. What? Doctors said the medication isn't working anymore. I stood immediately. Why not? They stopped the experimental treatment. I felt sick. So now what? Lena shook her head. They don't know. That night, I sat beside Noah's bed while machines struggled to keep him stable. He looked smaller than before. His voice barely came out. Dad. I leaned closer. I'm here, buddy. He swallowed weakly. Why is everyone crying? I forced a smile. Because they're tired. He nodded slowly. Then he whispered, I don't want to be here anymore. My chest froze. Don't say that. I just want one happy day, he said softly. With you and Mom. I looked at Lena. She was crying silently in the corner. Noah continued. No hospitals. No needles. Just normal. I couldn't speak. The system spoke quietly inside my head. Emotional threshold critical. I stood up and walked into the hallway. Lena followed me immediately. What did he say? She asked. I couldn't answer at first. Then I said, he wants a day with us. She covered her mouth. He knows, doesn't he? Knows what? That he's dying. I looked away. He's not supposed to know that. Her voice cracked. He feels it. Silence fell between us. Then Lena finally spoke again. I need to tell you something, she said. I turned slowly. Now. Yes, she whispered. Before it gets worse. We sat down together in the empty hallway. Her hand was shaking badly. I froze that day, she said. I frowned. What day? Noah's first attack. I stayed quiet. I agreed to the surgery, she said. But when they took him inside, I couldn't move. I stared at her. You already told me that part. No, she said quickly. Not everything. I waited. Her eyes filled with tears. I froze because I thought I caused it. My chest tightened. Caused what? The condition, she whispered. I thought it was my fault. I shook my head. That doesn't make sense. I kept blaming myself, she said. Every time Noah collapsed, I felt like I deserved it. I looked at her in disbelief. So you just let yourself suffer for years? She nodded. I thought I was being punished. My anger faded slowly. For the first time, I didn't see her as the woman who lied. I saw someone who was already broken long before I found out the truth. Lena whispered, I deserved every second of it. I shook my head. No. She looked at me. Then why did I feel it every day? I didn't have an answer. That night, I sat outside Noah's room again. But everything felt different now. Lena wasn't my enemy anymore. She was just another person drowning in the same nightmare. Then Noah called out softly, Mom. Lena rushed in immediately. He smiled faintly. Can we go home? She froze. Sweetheart, I want one day, he whispered. Just one. I looked at Lena. She looked at me. For the first time, we didn't argue. We just understood. Everything had changed, and we both knew it wasn't going to end well. I narrate the most emotional day of my life. Lena and I take Noah to the beach he always loved as a child. I said, we made it, buddy, just like you wanted. Lena said it feels like old times. Noah laughed and said ice cream first. I smiled and replied, anything you want today. We walked toward the small vendor near the shore. Noah asked, can we build a big castle today? I said, we will build the biggest one. Lena whispered, he looks so happy. For a moment, I forgot everything we were hiding. We all sat in the sand, building a castle together. Noah said, Dad, you build like a broken robot. I laughed and said, then fix me engineer, Noah. Lena laughed softly, both of you are impossible. We bought cheap ice cream from small cart. Noah asked, will we always come here together? I said, as long as we can. The wind felt heavier, but I did not say it. Lena said, can we talk honestly for once? I said, we are already doing that. Lena said, I stopped loving myself a long time ago. I said I blamed myself for Noah's illness because I ignored his early symptoms as a baby. Lena whispered, we both destroyed ourselves slowly. The sun began to set over the ocean. Noah said, I'm sleepy now. I said, come here, buddy. We sat together, watching the waves quietly. Lena said, I wish this day never ended. I said, me too. Noah fell asleep, holding both our hands. The night grew silent around us. Lena whispered, he is so peaceful. Hours passed without anyone speaking. He stopped breathing quietly in his sleep. I froze and whispered Noah. Lena screamed his name and collapsed. I held him and screamed into the night. I kept shaking Noah in my arms, whispering, no, 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 stay with me. Footsteps rushed across the sand as a distant doctor arrived. Doctor said, we need space, sir, please let us check. I shouted, he is my son, fix him now. Lena cried, please, Ethan, please. The doctor checked Noah's pulse silently. Doctor said, softly, time of death, uncertain but critical. I shook my head, no, no, he is still here. Lena fell beside me, whispering, I'm sorry. I pressed my hands on Noah's chest, screaming, come back, Noah. Doctor said, sir, stop, please, he is gone. I yelled, no, he can't be gone. Lena whispered, he is gone. I said, we promised him one day. The doctor stepped away quietly. Brooks arrived late, standing behind us. Brooks said, I'm sorry, Ethan. I said, don't say sorry, fix it. Brooks whispered, I wish I could. Lena said, I ruined everything. I said, no, you didn't, Victor did. The wind grew louder around the beach. Lena said, I cannot breathe. I said, stay with me, Lena. Lena said, I can't lose him. I whispered he was just a child. Lena nodded, crying silently. Brooks said, we will handle arrangements. I said, no arrangements, he comes back. Silence fell again, heavier than before. Lena reached for my hand. I didn't pull away. Brooks walked back into the darkness. I said, we gave him everything. Lena whispered, not enough. I looked at Noah one last time. I said, he asked for one day. Lena said, and we gave him the last one. The ocean waves kept moving like nothing happened. I felt everything breaking inside me. Lena whispered, I am sorry, Ethan. I said, sorry is not enough. I looked at Noah and felt my chest collapse. Lena cried, I cannot do this anymore. I said, you have to stay with me. The wind turned cold again. Lena squeezed my hand tightly. I whispered, we promised him a happy day. Lena nodded, shaking. I closed my eyes for a second. I said, please don't leave me. Lena said, I am here. The ocean kept crashing endlessly. I looked at Noah, breathing softly one last time. Lena whispered, he is still with us. I nodded slowly. I felt the moment slipping away from everything I knew and loved. Forever silence. I held him and screamed into the night.